Hello, and welcome to Starry Storytime, a gentle, soothing space where evening stories and soft whispers guide you into a peaceful night's rest. Tonight, we're offering another relaxing tale designed to help ease your mind and lead you toward a comforting slumber. Before we begin, let's take a moment to prepare our bodies and minds for deep rest. Find a comfortable position, and with each slow inhale and soft exhale, let any worries from the day quietly slip away. It can be challenging to step away from the day's hustle, especially when it's time to sleep. Yet remember, the less we worry about falling asleep, the easier it becomes for our minds to let go of lingering tension. Allow the gentle rhythm of your breath to wash away any remaining concerns, and let tonight's story guide you into serenity. Now, settle in and let the soothing aura of Starry Storytime surround you. May you enjoy this story and drift into a tranquil, restorative night's sleep. In the chilly and enchanting northern wilderness, there lived a woodcutter, a gentle widower, blessed with a delightful daughter named Daria. She filled his days with happiness, yet as time passed, he felt the longing for companionship and decided to remarry. Understanding her father's wishes, Daria graciously welcomed her new stepmother and stepsister, Maria, hoping to find friendship in their company. Unfortunately, the peace in their woodland home was fleeting. The harsh stepmother, feeling threatened by Daria's natural beauty that outshone Maria's, grew increasingly bitter. Despite Daria's kind-hearted attempts to win her over, she was met with relentless criticism. Fortunately for Daria, she had a faithful companion in Victor, a large dog gifted to her by her father. Though he bore a resemblance to a wolf, Victor was gentle-natured and fiercely loyal to Daria. When her father set off on a journey to trade wood for supplies, she bid him farewell with Victor at her side, feeling a sense of dread about the lonely days that lay ahead. As her father rode away, her stepmother and stepsister seemed indifferent to his departure. The day unfolded as usual. Each person busied themselves with their chores and exchanged few words. Yet beneath the surface, Daria's stepmother was quietly plotting to take advantage of her husband's absence. She was determined to rid herself of Daria once and for all. As the sun dipped low in the winter sky that afternoon, painting everything in soft hues of orange and pink, Daria found herself absorbed in a book in her cozy sleeping loft. The peaceful atmosphere was suddenly interrupted by a stir coming from the kitchen below. Curiosity piqued, she hurried down the stairs to see what was amiss. Upon reaching the kitchen, she found the front door wide open, letting in the cold air that chilled the house. Her stepmother appeared flustered, wringing her hands nervously. "Daria," she cried out dramatically, "the wind blew open the door and Victor has run away." Glancing around frantically, Daria realized that Victor was indeed missing. He usually lounged comfortably by the warmth of the stove, but was nowhere to be seen. Without hesitation, Daria wrapped herself in her woolen shawl and dashed outside, while calling for Victor. She searched every nook and cranny of their small homestead, but found no sign of him. Returning to the front door with worry etched on her face, she asked her stepmother if she had seen which direction he had taken. with an insidious smile creeping onto her face. Her stepmother pointed toward a narrow path leading deep into the woods and urged slyly, "Hurry now, you might still catch him." Without a moment's hesitation to put on warmer clothes, Daria dashed down the path, her heart set on finding Victor and bringing him back home safely. As she vanished into the shadows, her stepmother closed the door behind her, sharing a knowing smile with Maria. They opened the pantry door to find Victor comfortably seated inside, happily finishing off a stack of pancakes, blissfully unaware of Daria's frantic calls. Maria and her mother chuckled at their clever trick, while Victor, sensing Daria's absence, sniffed curiously at the front door. Meanwhile, they settled in to savor the leftover pancakes that had just come out of the oven. In the depths of the woods, however, Daria was still searching for Victor. Lost in her thoughts and oblivious to the thickening twilight, she pressed forward, not considering that Victor, being a sturdy northern dog, could likely navigate his way home, and that it might be wiser to postpone her search until morning. Perhaps she should have grabbed a heavier coat before heading out. But who could fault her for wanting to find her beloved friend? She comforted herself with the thought that if she turned around the next bend, or called just a bit louder, Victor would come bounding back to her side. And so she ventured further away. By the time she realized she was lost and far from home, night had already fallen. Before long, Daria found herself wandering aimlessly through the dimming light, over tree roots, around large boulders, and beneath low-hanging branches, all while calling out for Victor. Yet deep down, she feared he might be far away. As darkness enveloped the forest more tightly, it dawned on her that seeking shelter would be wise. Waiting there until dawn seemed like the best plan. Eventually, she stumbled upon a small clearing surrounded by towering evergreen trees. Slipping beneath their drooping branches for cover, she wrapped her shawl tighter around herself. This little haven offered some protection against the biting wind as moonlight filtered through the trees and illuminated her surroundings. It wasn't perfect, but it would have to do for now. Leaning against a sturdy trunk, she began to drift into slumber. Suddenly, something unusual stirred in the air around her. It grew noticeably colder and pulled her from her drowsy state. Her nose tingled as if touched by frost, and an enchanting whisper seemed to echo through the trees. Turning slightly to peer behind her, she felt an unfamiliar presence, or perhaps it was merely a change in the atmosphere itself. When she faced back toward the clearing once more, what she saw made her heart race. Standing not far away was a tall figure. At first, she couldn't quite make out who he was, as he waved his arm gracefully from side to side in the sweeping motion. As he moved, the air around him sparkled with tiny, glimmering particles that floated from his fingertips, carried by a gentle breeze. Wherever these shimmering bits settled, on branches or the ground, a fresh color emerged. The vibrant green of leaves and grass transformed into a pristine white. It was as if he were a painter, reimagining the very essence of the forest and breathing new life into it. Captivated, she watched as he finally seemed to notice her presence. He paused his mysterious task and looked at her with surprise evident on his face. Daria found herself utterly speechless, unable to form any words. It was he who eventually broke the stillness. "Goodness, where did you come from?" he asked kindly. Daria struggled to respond. She couldn't help but notice how handsome he was. Observing her silence, he crossed his arms and studied her thoughtfully, as if searching for the answer himself. Then, shaking his head as if coming to a realization, he spoke again. "Well, miss," he said gently, "you really can't stay here. I'm about to envelop this entire forest in a deep winter freeze, and it won't be comfortable for sleeping." Finally, finding her voice, Daria assured him that she didn't want to interrupt his work. After all, being lost in the woods again would be far worse than just feeling cold. She certainly didn't want to wander aimlessly through the dark forest once more. The man looked at her skeptically and brushed some stray ice off his trousers. After studying her for a moment longer, he shrugged. "All right then, I'll carry on," he said with a hint of reluctance before adding apologetically, "I truly have so much to do tonight." Daria nodded earnestly and wrapped her shawl tightly around herself, tucking her feet further beneath her skirt. Summoning her courage, she said cheerfully, "Good luck. I'll just go back to sleep." The man moved deeper into the clearing, but glanced back at her once or twice as if hesitating. Then he stretched his arms wide once more, unleashing a spectacular spray of glittering winter magic. Under the moonlight, it appeared as though diamonds blanketed the forest floor and every nearby surface. However, the temperature dropped sharply. Daria was determined to remain brave despite the chill that enveloped her. Yet it was indeed very cold now. Her chin began to tremble from shivering, and soon enough she felt her teeth chatter softly in response to the frigid air. The tall, striking stranger paused mid-task in the clearing and turned to Daria, his gaze lingering on her for a moment before he halted his work once more. Striding toward her, he addressed her again. "Miss, it's evident that you're not dressed for the winter chill, and I fear this evening is only going to grow colder. Might you consider making your way home to find a warm fire?" Daria's spirits sank at his words, and with a reluctant nod, she explained that she had lost her way while searching for her dog and didn't know how to return home. Upon hearing this, the man's expression softened into one of kindness. He bowed deeply and introduced himself. "I am King Frost, ruler of the North. Sometimes I even share my wintry touch with those in the warmer lands." He added with a playful wink, "People here often overlook me, but those in milder climates find me quite remarkable." Daria smiled back and curtsied in response, introducing herself in turn. Yet, even as she tried to exhibit her best manners, the Frost King noticed that she appeared pale and frail. Realizing she would need assistance to endure the night in his frosty forest, he gestured for her to follow him. "My sleigh is just ahead," he said. "There are warm blankets and refreshments that will help revive you. Come along, let me guide you." Feeling thankful for his kindness, Daria followed closely behind as he crossed the clearing. Her leather shoes sank into the soft snow beneath her feet, and she marveled at how this place had been lush with grass not long ago. Her thoughts shifted when she caught sight of a gleaming white sleigh nestled among the tall trees. It was hitched to a magnificent snow-white horse, its silver runners glistening in the moonlight like something out of a dream. With a flourish, the Frost King opened the door of the sleigh and bowed gracefully, inviting her inside. Daria approached with caution, but expressed her gratitude before sinking onto an opulent red velvet seat adorned with cozy woolen blankets. She eagerly wrapped herself up, trying to warm her hands and face against the cold. Looking up, she watched as King Frost snapped his fingers and conjured a silver tray holding a steaming mug of mulled cider from thin air. With a soft gasp of joy, she accepted the mug from him, and his broad smile brightened the moment. He gently closed the sleigh door and leaned against it, as if ready for a heartfelt conversation. Furrowing his striking brow in thought, he asked her how she had found herself lost in the depths of the forest all alone. As she sipped the warm cider, Daria began to share the tale of her loyal dog, Victor, who had slipped out of their cottage and vanished into the woods. The Frost King listened with keen interest before prompting her to describe her home. Was it large or small, built from stone or timber? Did it have a garden enclosed by a fence or perhaps a chicken coop? Daria painted a vivid picture of their snug wooden house with its steeply sloped roof, gesturing gracefully as she spoke of the intricate carvings around the windows that her father had lovingly crafted. She described the yard that boasted a kitchen garden, a hay shed, and a little barn, all nestled behind a charming woven wooden fence. As she wove this imagery for him, he couldn't help but smile, appreciating her deep affection for her home, and knowing exactly where it lay. With a playful wink, he produced a beautifully wrapped box from behind his back and presented it to her. "I bring you 2 pieces of wonderful news," he announced. "First, these are the most delectable chocolates you will ever taste." Daria felt a warm blush rise to her cheeks as she accepted the box and lifted the lid, enchanted by the exquisite treats within. The Frost King continued. "And second, I know where your house is, and I will take you back." Elated, Daria clapped her hands together in delight, momentarily forgetting about the box resting in her lap. She expressed her heartfelt gratitude and graciously offered him a piece of chocolate. He took one, savoring its flavor for a moment, before settling into the sleigh beside her. Daria had expected the Frost King to feel icy to the touch. Instead, he radiated an inexplicable warmth that was both dazzling and comforting. As he urged the horse onward and the sleigh glided smoothly through the snow, she stole sideways glances at him. Until that very evening, winter had seemed harsh and lonely to her. However, meeting the Frost King had transformed her view entirely. Nestling deeper into her cozy seat and enjoying the thrill of their swift journey through the night air, she felt not cold, but rather filled with joy and comfort in his presence. Time seemed to slip away as Daria journeyed through a magical dreamscape. On her sleigh ride, the trees appeared to graciously lift their branches in honor of the Frost King, and the forest was alive with the gentle sound of tinkling bells. The snow and ice he had crafted sparkled like jewels, embellishing every inch of the landscape with enchantment. The shimmering moonlight provided a perfect backdrop, illuminating everything around them. The Frost King turned out to be a delightful companion during their travels. He sang joyful melodies, shared captivating stories of his adventures, and kindly asked about her life as the daughter of a woodcutter. Although she felt her own tales paled in comparison to his remarkable experiences, she opened up about her family. She spoke of her father, stepmother, and stepsister, sharing snippets of their life at home. While these stories felt quite ordinary to her, she cherished the connection they fostered. The Frost King found her genuine nature charming and relished each story she told. Above all, he admired her fondness for the simple joys found in the rugged northern lands he ruled. Eventually, the soothing sound of their sleigh, gliding through the snowy woods, faded as they reached the yard of her home. A sense of wistfulness washed over Daria. What had begun as a hesitant adventure had transformed into an unforgettable night. As she stepped from the sleigh, the Frost King opened the door wide and extended his hand toward her. "Be careful, mind your step," he said with a warm smile. "It seems someone has covered your entire garden in ice and snow." Daria giggled softly as she began to peel off the beautiful woolen blanket draped over her shoulders. No, keep it," he insisted gently. "Think of it as a gift from me to you." Blushing at his kindness, she nodded appreciatively while he added, "You might find it useful on your next nighttime adventure in the woods." When Daria opened her front door, she was greeted by Victor sitting there with his tail wagging excitedly. She realized he must have returned while she was away and felt a wave of happiness wash over her as she buried her face in his soft fur, holding him close. As she stood up and quietly closed the door behind her, she stole one last glance through the crack, just in time to see the Frost King guiding his majestic horse away. To her surprise, it seemed he winked at her one final time before vanishing into the night. Daria's stepmother and stepsister put on an elaborate show of joy upon her return, feigning concern as if they had spent the whole night worrying about her. Deep down, the stepmother felt quite annoyed that Daria had come back, and with such an incredible story to share. If it weren't for the stunning blanket in the girl's possession, she might have dismissed it all as a mere figment of imagination. The blanket's exquisite craftsmanship hinted at a considerable value. Later that evening, the woodcutter arrived home and listened to his daughter's tale with a trace of skepticism. Yet his primary emotion was one of relief. The news of Daria's adventures in the forest had caused him great distress, and he found it hard to believe that Victor would rush into the woods so recklessly. With a stern look directed at the dog, he cautioned him not to add any more worries to his mistress's life, and insisted that Victor stop begging for pancakes by the stove. Sitting patiently by the oven, Victor tilted his head and appeared genuinely sorry. Nay, life gradually returned to its normal rhythm as winter settled in as anticipated. However, Daria felt a shift within herself. She began to daydream frequently and entertained thoughts she had never considered before. Before her journey into the forest, She had never envisioned a life beyond the humble existence in their little cottage. Yet, her encounter with the Frost King had opened her eyes to wonders she could hardly imagine. At night, she dreamt of his warm smile and contemplated the enchanting places he might be visiting. She wondered about all the marvels unfolding under his majestic command. A few weeks after their meeting, Daria stepped outside one morning following a heavy snowstorm from the previous night. To her astonishment, there was a beautifully wrapped box waiting on her doorstep, adorned with sparkling silver paper and tied with a soft green velvet bow. Carefully bringing the package inside, she unwrapped it gently, taking care not to tear the exquisite paper. When she lifted the lid, she found a stunning velvet cloak nestled inside. In royal blue with delicate silver snowflake embroidery, it captivated both her stepsister and stepmother, who couldn't resist reaching out to touch its luxurious fabric. Draping the cloak around herself, Daria leaned in to feel its softness against her cheek and hugged it close to her heart, overwhelmed with happiness. She knew that the cloak was a present from the Frost King. While the cloak itself was enchanting, it was his fond thoughts of her that filled her heart with true happiness. The arrival of such a lavish gift stirred great displeasure in her stepmother, who commanded Daria to stow away the silly cape and attend to her chores instead. Furthermore, she insisted that Daria clear the entire front walkway of snow, a particularly cruel demand given the biting cold and lack of urgency. Nevertheless, Daria's cheerful spirit remained unshaken as she donned her old coat and went about her tasks almost as if in a dream. The Frost King had re-entered her life once more. Throughout the long winter, days and nights drifted by without much change. The northern landscape lay desolate, with no neighbors nearby to visit or entertain the woodcutter and his family. Yet he found contentment in his home and work, while Daria kept herself buoyed by hopeful thoughts of possibly crossing paths with the Frost King again someday. Meanwhile, envy and resentment festered in her stepmother and stepsister's hearts. The tension escalated after another heavy snowfall brought yet another unexpected gift for Daria. As dawn broke, she opened the door to find snowdrifts surrounding their cozy cottage, revealing a second present wrapped in shimmering gold paper adorned with a white ribbon. With excitement bubbling inside her, Daria brought the splendid gift indoors and carefully unwrapped it before her family once again. Her father watched from his perch by the stove, while her stepsister and stepmother leaned in eagerly, curious about what lay inside. To their astonishment, nestled within the box were the softest, most exquisitely crafted boots they had ever seen, elaborately embroidered with vibrant designs and lined with warm wool. Daria removed one sock and slipped her foot into one of those beautiful boots, savoring its plush comfort. They felt as though they had been made just for her, fitting perfectly. In her blissful reverie, she failed to notice her stepmother's growing irritation, but soon enough, the woman could no longer keep silent. "Well," she said sharply, "Maria, my daughter, you must venture into the forest. Discover what marvelous gifts your stepsister receives from this King Frost she has encountered. Let him rescue you too, and you shall be showered with even more exquisite treasures." Maria gazed at her mother in shock, unable to believe that she would truly send her out into the frigid air on such a pointless errand. Yet her cunning mother was unwavering in her decision. She instructed the woodcutter to take Maria deep into the woods without a coat and leave her there. Daria and her father tried to persuade the stepmother to reconsider, but their pleas fell on deaf ears. Later that day, the woodcutter begrudgingly loaded his stepdaughter onto his sled and journeyed into the forest, uncertain of where exactly he should leave her. Before departing, he handed her his coat, assuring her that he wouldn't be gone long and advising her to stay safe until morning. Maria turned down his offer, claiming that his coat smelled of horse and insisting that soon she would be showered with gifts from the Frost King. With no way to change her mind, the sorrowful man shook his head and made his way back home. Left alone in a clearing surrounded by towering trees, Maria began to stamp her feet and clap her hands together, eager for the arrival of the Frost King. She adopted a most pitiful tone as she called out for help. However, no grand winter figure appeared before her. Instead, all she managed to do was scare away any curious creatures that might have been nearby. As night descended, frustration bubbled within her. Where was the rescuer with his splendid gifts and warm drinks? Why hadn't he come for her like he had for Daria? No amount of fussing seemed to summon him, and soon despair washed over her as she huddled beneath a pine bough, tears of self-pity spilling down her cheeks. Just as she contemplated heading homeward, she heard the sound of jingling harness bells drawing near. To her amazement, an exquisite white sleigh emerged from the shadows, drawn by a magnificent white horse. And there in the sleigh sat none other than the Frost King. She was certain of it. He was more breathtakingly handsome than she had ever imagined, every bit as charming as Daria had described, and even more so. Eager not to be overlooked, Maria dashed into the path of his sleigh, ready to play the role of a damsel in distress. He brought the horse to a halt and regarded her with curiosity. "What are you doing out here all alone in this winter wonderland?" he asked, raising an eyebrow at her unexpected presence. With a charming smile that she hoped would catch his eye, Maria danced lightly from one foot to the other, sharing that she had lost her way and was dreadfully cold. Could he possibly help her? The Frost King paused to consider her words, glancing up at the starry sky as if weighing her request. "I have much to accomplish in the woods tonight," he replied thoughtfully. "But you may accompany me for a while, and once my tasks are complete, I shall ensure you make it back home safely." Unfazed by the thought of interrupting his important work, Maria eagerly tugged at the door of his sleigh, signaling her desire to climb aboard. With a flick of his wrist, he opened it for her, though there was a hint of reluctance in his gesture. Disappointed not to be treated like a true lady, she seized the opportunity to enter. She wrapped herself snugly in the luxurious blanket inside, secretly hoping it would come home with her. After all, it was from this very sleigh that Daria's exquisite woolen wrap had originated. As their journey commenced, Maria cleared her throat dramatically. The Frost King brought the horse to a halt and turned to her with an expression of patience. Noticing something amiss, she sweetly inquired, "Might you offer me some refreshment?" A look of understanding crossed the Frost King's face, as though he had just unraveled a mystery about her. With a playful twinkle in his eye, he presented her with a simple cup of hot water and a slice of bread. He placed them on a plate before her and encouraged her to enjoy the meal. Maria felt quite dissatisfied. This was not the royal treatment she had envisioned. Had she ventured into these frosty woods only to be treated like an everyday person? No, indeed, she thought crossly, she certainly had not. As the sleigh continued on its path, she cleared her throat again. "How long will your work take?" she asked petulantly. "I'm feeling rather cold and wish to return home." Without sparing her a glance, the Frost King replied calmly, "Ah, yes, dear miss. I've just realized that getting you home is my foremost priority, since I doubt we'll find joy in each other's company for much longer." Then, with a hint of irony in his voice, he added, "I believe I know the way to your house." Maria was taken aback by his nonchalant reply and felt disheartened. As he swiftly turned the sleigh towards her cottage, she slumped under the blanket in disappointment. Her mother would surely be upset when she returned without anything to show for it. The Frost King graciously set Maria down at the cottage, slipping away without any formal farewells, disappearing from sight before she could even reach for the door. Upon stepping inside, only her stepfather and Daria seemed relieved to see her return. Maria's mother, however, felt a pang of disappointment at the fleeting nature of her daughter's encounter with the Frost King. Her heart sank further when she realized that Maria had come back empty-handed. Even the cozy blanket she had used during her sleigh ride had vanished along with him. In contrast, Daria experienced a sense of relief. While glad that Maria was safe from the icy woods, she secretly reveled in the fact that the Frost King had not shown her sister the same favor. Daria held dear the memories of their shared conversations and the lovely gifts he had bestowed upon her. She clung to the belief that such treasures were not given to just any girl wandering in the forest. Life at home settled back into its familiar winter rhythm. The fierce storms ceased, and spring appeared on the horizon. Yet this year, Daria felt a twinge of sadness as spring approached. She understood that with winter's end would come the absence of visits from the Frost King, leaving her with an unexpected sense of emptiness. But Daria was in for a delightful surprise. After weeks of rising warmth, April brought an unforeseen twist to their days. One morning, the family awoke to find a thick layer of snow blanketing everything outside. Frost adorned the windows, and sunlight sparkled across the white landscape. Eager for another surprise, Daria opened the front door and discovered a beautifully wrapped box nestled in the snow on their doorstep. It was draped in soft purple fabric and tied with a shimmering silver ribbon. To her utter delight, she spotted the Frost King standing at a distance, his face lit up with a broad smile as his sleigh waited patiently beneath the trees. He appeared even more striking than she remembered, his entire form glistening in the late winter sun, like something out of a dream. Breaking through Daria's momentary awe, he gestured towards the box and cheerfully encouraged her, "Go ahead and open it. Standing at the threshold, Daria untied the ribbon and lifted off the lid, letting out an ecstatic gasp as joy washed over her. Inside lay a breathtaking diamond tiara, a sight unlike anything she had ever seen before, and she could only cover her mouth in sheer astonishment at its splendor. As she gazed up at the Frost King, disbelief washed over her, and she shook her head, unsure about accepting such a lavish gift. After all, what could a woodcutter's daughter possibly do with a diamond crown? The Frost King stepped closer, traversing the snowy path to her door. With a heavy heart, he confessed that he had fallen for a beautiful girl he encountered in the woods, and no longer wished to reign over winter and solitude. With a gentle bow and his hand placed over his heart, he asked Daria to be his bride and the beloved queen of snow and ice. For a fleeting moment, Daria found herself entranced by the delicate tiara that sparkled brilliantly in the sunlight. Yet deep down, she understood that she would accept. It was evident that this was her fate, filling her with joy as the Frost King was truly her perfect counterpart. In a simple yet elegant ceremony held within his ice palace in the eternal winter landscape, Daria and the king exchanged their vows. Of course, Victor was there too, brimming with happiness as the most joyful dog one could imagine. Not only did the royal pup indulge in pancakes at every meal, but his thick fur coat made him feel perfectly at ease in the chilly palace. Although Daria was accustomed to warm summers, the Queen of Snow and Ice occasionally journeyed to warmer lands, bringing along a refreshing breeze of coolness. So next time you feel that early autumn chill or delight in a cool summer rainstorm, remember she is close by, and know that when the moment is right, she and the Frost King will reunite to restore the magic of a winter wonderland once more.